apologies for being late. It's been a pretty hectic week. But thank you so much for being here. Especially on a Friday too, right before winter break. Do y'all have winter break? Yeah. Coming up? Okay. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm just getting settled here. So I would love to make this discussion as collaborative as possible. I know I created a pretty big, well not a big, but a PowerPoint itself, kind of last minute. But I wanted to first start off with asking you all, can you all hear me okay? Yeah. Because I don't think this mic is working, is it? No?
On this side of the mic, there should be a button if it's not that on.
I mean, I'm able to speak loudly too, I think. And this gym has a good echo effect too. Test 1, 2. Do you all hear me? Do you all hear me? Okay.
Can you try one more time?
Yeah. Test.
Test 1, 2. Okay. Maybe
Do you prefer with the microphone or without?
With? Okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Chris. I had the opportunity to be in your shoes exactly 10 years ago. So, I was 15 years old when I was last year in Razi School back in 2012. I was in 9th grade. So I graduated from the junior high school, but I did not graduate from Razi High School itself. I transferred out at the end of 9th grade. But I am so fortunate to be here to speak with you all today and really want to talk with you about how to figure out what you want to do before going to college, especially when life approaches or is uncertain. So, a quick show of hands, just because I want this to be as collaborative as possible. How many of you all are 10th graders? Raise your hand. Okay, so I see 2 hands. How many are in 11th grade? Okay, I see more hands. How many of you are seniors or in 12th grade? Wow, that's awesome. That's the majority. Out of curiosity, for the seniors, do you all know what college you're going to? Are you still waiting on acceptance letters, or how's that process like? Still waiting. Okay. Yeah, I remember being a senior, and the process was very it was very nerve-wracking, because I was asking myself, like, when are decisions going to come out already? Like, for me, I think it came out in April or May, but I remember every single day I was just anticipating. So, a little bit about me, just so you know, I ended up going to Baruch College in Manhattan. I studied finance, specifically business, and I knew from a young age, I knew ever since being in high school that I was really passionate about airplanes and aerospace. I loved the way planes flew. It absolutely fascinated me, and I knew that I wanted to pursue it. And as a result, even though there were so many people in college, specifically my friends, who told me, hey, Christopher, like, you should go down the Wall Street route where you're working in a big financial corporate bank, I knew deep down that that wasn't for me. So I would have to say, like, as you approach life, there are going to be a lot of people that tell you hey, this is what you should be doing. You should be a lawyer, an investment banker, an engineer, a doctor. And even though all of those things are exciting to do, even though they're very, very popular, high-demanding jobs that pay significantly well, it doesn't mean that you'll necessarily be happy doing it, especially if you're not passionate about it. So the first thing that I want to go through is this, is life is not linear. And you may ask, like, hey, like, what do you mean by that, right? So oftentimes, we may have plans of what we want to do. We may say to ourselves, like, okay, I want to take the PSATs, do well in that, take the SATs, get a certain score, take SAT 2s or ACTs or whatever the case is, and get into a really good college, study something exciting, and afterwards go into a full-time job that is very, very rewarding and super successful, right? We have that trajectory where we're like, okay, I'm here. And afterwards, I want to go here, then here, then here, then here, then here, and you want to progressively go up. But the thing is that life is not linear. Oftentimes, there are zigzags, there are challenges along the way. There are temporary setbacks that feel like a big deal in the moment, even though in the grand scheme of life, it's extremely, extremely small. And I'll give you all a classic example. So recently, I moved to Seattle about 3 months ago for work, because I work at Boeing. And yesterday, I had a red-eye flight from Seattle to New York. Quick show of hands. Does anyone know what a red-eye flight is? Wow, no one. Okay. So what a red-eye flight is it's a flight that usually takes place in the evening, the night before, and it lands in another place in the morning. So for example, I had a red-eye flight from Seattle at 9:30 p.m. Pacific time, and it landed here in New York this morning at 5:45 a.m. So that's what a red-eye flight is. And what ended up happening was I was going to the airport, and I was significantly late yesterday. And as a result, I was this close to missing my flight. I ended up getting to the airport, I would say, 45 minutes prior to when I was scheduled to fly out, and usually you should be at the airport maybe about 2 hours before. And as a result, in my head, I was thinking about what's going to happen. Would I miss the Razi School speech? Would I be in an uncomfortable situation where I would have to tell my family, hey, I can't make it, like my flight got canceled? In that moment, I thought about, what would happen, right? I would lose a lot of money. I would have to pay for an airfare all over again. All of my plans would be canceled. And I started to get nervous and anxious about what was going to happen. And in that moment, I told myself, I'm like, hey, I need to take a deep breath, take a step back, and understand that even though I'm in this situation, I can't control any of it, right? I'm in this long line, I'm waiting. If I miss my flight, there's nothing I can do. I can't skip a line of, 100 people waiting to get checked in through TSA security. So what I did was I hoped for the best, I prayed, and I surrendered, and I said, hey, I wanted to do all of these things, but if I'm not able to, then, for 2 years. But there are times that things could be delayed, whether that's going to the dream college that you wanted to go to. You know, I have plenty of friends that didn't go to their ideal four-year college. They went to a community college, and they went there for a year or two, and after transferred and studied something amazing. There are others that ended up not even doing what they planned on doing originally itself. So I want to go, with that point, I want to go to my next point, which is the unknown things that life presents at you allows you to grow and go on a new adventure. So what does that mean? Actually, we're going to do a little bit of a collaboration exercise. So, what's your name? Aisha. Okay. And you're a senior, right? Okay. What would you want to study in college? Biology. Okay, cool. And what would you want to be like in the long term? Physical therapist. Okay. So, Aisha here wants to study biology. She wants to become a physical therapist in the future. Now, oftentimes in life, if you really have that goal, you can make that happen. But sometimes it may not be as you expect it to be, right? Sometimes, for some reason, like God forbid, you may have to stop college along the way, or you may have to take a semester off, or you may say to yourself, okay, biology is not for me. So I have a question. Hypothetically, if you were to say like, okay, biology is not for you, then what would you see yourself doing in the future?
Something else that I consider like being law.
Something else what? I'm sorry?
Something that's considered is going to law, becoming a lawyer.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Aisha said that her secondary option is
Becoming a lawyer if bio doesn't work out, right? So oftentimes, more than not, our life tends to be it tends to go on the trajectory of this. It tends to go on our passion, number one, like what we're interested in, and number two, what life throws at us. So like, for example, with me, for the longest time, I was supposed to go to the University of Buffalo. And 3 days before I was supposed to have my high school graduation, Baruch College, who ended up rejecting me because Baruch was my dream school and I was committed to the University of Buffalo. Baruch ended up calling me and saying, hey, there are some open slots that opened up here at Baruch College. If you are interested, feel free to submit a resume and we will consider your application for fall of 2015, because that was when I was supposed to go into college. And as a result, I submitted that essay. And it wasn't an essay that I cultivated per se to be transparent with you. I just took my 11th grade research paper and I submitted it because it was already in the summertime. It was already like the end of May, beginning of June. And I got admitted into Baruch College. Thank you, I saw someone clapping. But it just goes to show you that what you think might be a step back or a rejection or some form of uncertainty can really allow you to grow and become better. Because every setback, every rejection, everything that you think is negative will just make you stronger at the end of the day, because you'll know how to overcome those challenges because you've been through rejection before, you've been through uncertainty before. And I'm going So I'm glad I wasn't the only person at your age. I'm still like that. I'm still nervous about the future at my age. Okay, so I would have to say, okay, does one person actually, let me step back. Does one person want to be brave enough to volunteer and say what they're nervous about? It could be anything. It's nothing, there's no silly answers, there's no stupid answers at all. I saw like 8 people, at least 8 to 10 people raise their hand. I want to get some participation. Please. Yes. What's your name? Sorry? Mohammed. Nice to meet you.
I've done these reading with something goes like race, and you're no longer major, you know, in college, and in life, you still don't do this.
I'm so sorry, I'm like partially deaf. I'm joking. Can you repeat what you said? No, it sounded really, really important.
I've done this reading, you're in college, you're like reading biology, whatever, and after this reading, you got prison happens, you had to got like your world's pretty much, and like you got the college, you're still not through.
Honestly, Muhammad, that is something very, very, very plausible. That could, it's a rational fear. It could happen to anyone. And you have a very, very good point. And I'm gonna tell you all the story. Another story. Sorry. I remember during my freshman year of college, my dad got into cardiac arrest, like, out of nowhere. He had pulmonary edema, which is basically a blood clot in his lungs. And as a result, I was going to college, I was working part-time, like 30 hours a week. I was burnt out. And I felt like I was at a very low point because I never failed any form of subject in elementary school, middle school, high school. And I remember when I got that news, like I basically ended up failing like all of my midterms in that semester. Not my final exams, my midterms. And I remember vividly it was in February of 2016. And I was asking myself, like, what in the world do I do? Personally, I'm not close to my dad at all. And like there were other people in my family that were pressuring me. They were like, hey, you should really go and travel and see him. And I'm like, you know, it's easy for you to say, you all have the money, you all are working, you all have so much money saved. Like, my mom works as a housekeeper, you know, I'm trying to support her, I'm trying to support me. And it was a very, very stressful time. And I remember, like, just being so stressed out to the point where, like, my heart and chest would hurt because I didn't know what would come in the future. I didn't know if I would have to drop classes for that semester. I didn't know if I had to do something that would, you know, like, put my degree in jeopardy in the sense where I would have to change my major or, like, graduate a year later. And I remember I was talking to my college professors about it, and I said, hey, like, I don't want to be the type of person who makes excuses. I know that at the end of the day you have thousands of plus students that you're teaching, but I'm going through something really, really challenging, and I promise you that the grades that I got is not a reflection of who I am as a person or what my potential is. And I feel like that's so important because oftentimes a lot of people may attach a grade, a GPA, to who you are as a person, to your intelligence. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is not the case. One of my closest friends, she graduated with a perfect GPA from college, with a perfect 4.0. but she went through so much tough challenges, and she studied finance too. She went through so much tough challenges that she doesn't have like full-time work at the moment. And we both graduated in December of 2019. And there are other people like who have 2.5, 3.0 GPAs. I graduated from college with a 3.0. I had the opportunity to intern, network with people, and really through God's grace, I was able to get a full-time opportunity. And going back to your situation, Mohammed, like, there were so many times I thought that I would not finish college. And the reason why was because it wasn't because that I felt like I was not capable, but it was because that I went through so much life challenges, and a lot of people have as well. You know, like in college, I struggled with a lot of worries. I struggled with anxiety. At one point, I had panic attacks. I hope none of you all have those. It's bad. And a lot of times that I felt incapable. But what really allowed me to keep on going, no matter, you know, how many classes I had to drop, because I think I had to maybe drop 3 or 4 classes during my 4.5-year college tenure and retake them again. I realized my why. And my why was simple. I wanted to do the things that really made me passionate and that really, really excited me. And I didn't want to follow what other people, I didn't want to follow people's expectations, what people expected of me, right? Oftentimes, our parents at the end of the day, they want the absolute best for us. They want us to grow, they want us to learn, they want us to be comfortable, they want us to have a good living. But at the end, the vision that you have in regards to college or in regards to your life is in your mind. It's up to you to make your dreams happen. So when life gets tough, remember your why. Remember why you decided to go to college in the first place. Remember what you want to do. And remember that even though life throws very, very challenging situations our way, as a famous person would say, there's beauty in the struggle and ugliness in the success, which basically alludes to this. The toughest times build the most precious moments. The toughest times allows us to be more resilient. The toughest times allows us to navigate through those uncertainties, right? So like, let's say if you were to go through, you know, a challenging situation in college where you fell off for a semester or something happened at home and it was affecting you, right? Yes, there are going to be challenges from that moment, but those are just only going to make you stronger in the long run. You just need to actively tell yourself, hey, I want to do the best I can. I want to grow, I want to become better, and as a result, I'll do everything I can to go about doing that. I'm not sure, does that answer your question, or if you have any other follow-ups? Cool. Does anyone have any other questions? It could be something in relations to college, or it could be anything else. Yes, what's your name?
Do you recommend like co-majoring first year, or?
Do I recommend what?
Like doing co-major first year?
Okay, so I'm actually not even familiar with what a co-major is. What is a co-major?
Double major.
Let's say we're on double major, computer science, and I want to co-major in business, whatever, but that's all they're on me.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would have to say that's a very, very good idea, actually. I have a lot of friends that quote unquote double majored, co-majored, or majored and minored. Honestly, if I were to like redo my undergrad again, instead of doing finance, I would maybe double major in like economics and math, because I'm really, really passionate about math, and I'm really passionate about like business and supply and demand. But yeah, I would highly recommend that. And you actually bring up a very, very good point that I wanted to bring up, and it is this: if you think you're really good at something, take the time to practice it every single day or every single week as much as you can. Now, it could be anything, right? Like, let's say if you are really good at designing shoes, it could be you wanting to design a shoe every week or every 2 weeks. If it is you being really passionate about computer programming or about building a model of some sort, right? Like such as architecture or something in regards to graphic design, practice that. Because at the end of the day, what I've realized, at least with a lot of people like around my age, a lot of people in our generation, is that a lot of people don't stick to one thing forever. We're not in a generation, for the most part, because if you're really, really passionate about something, I would say do it for as long as possible. But oftentimes, more than not, we're not in the generation of if you're passionate about something, you'll do it for like 20, 30, 40 years, right? People may change their interests probably every 5 years, every 10 years or so. So, just to echo your point, I would say that's really important. Find different things that you're interested in and use that towards your advantage. It will really help you in the long term, because let's say if you study something, you love the major, but you're like, this job is not fulfilling. You have that secondary major, or you have that passion that you've practiced for the longest time to fall back on. And that can give you so many opportunities. I'll give you all an example, right? So I majored in finance, and I minored in math and communications in college. And right now, I'm working in finance, but throughout my time in school, I would say from really 2018, the beginning of 2018 until now, I really took the time to mentor people. I'm really, really passionate about helping others. I really love to see people succeed. Like ever since I was young, I've always wanted to see the best in people. I've always wanted people to go and really maximize on their full potential. And as a result, I told myself, okay, I'm going to practice mentoring people. I want to speak with individuals one-on-one to help them maybe with their resumes, their cover letters, to help them through the college application process, through transitioning from high school to college. Like, that's why I'm here, because I love speaking to people. I love mentoring others. I love what I do. And recently I've been telling myself, I said, hey, I love finance, but I don't see myself doing finance long term. I don't see myself being in front of a computer just on Microsoft Excel crunching numbers all day long. I feel like helping others is a lot more fulfilling. And because I've practiced speaking with people one-on-one, I'm now able to translate that maybe into a job in human resources or speaking or recruiting if I wanted to. And this, what I've done over the past 4 years, gives me that opportunity. It makes me comfortable to do that. And that's something that I would encourage all of you to do, right? If you feel like you're in a certain situation where you think that you have to study something, or you want to pursue something because you want your family to be well off, right? I would highly, deeply encourage you, like at least I want this to be, you know, one of the main takeaways from like our conversation. Do at least one thing that you're passionate about and practice that on a consistent basis. Any other questions? All right, let me go back.
Adam, you don't have any questions?
For me? And if anything, I know that like you must be like mentally thinking about breaking everything. So like, thank you for being here. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. Yeah, thank you for coming.
Of course, of course.
We really appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all too. I appreciate y'all listening. Okay. Sister, do you mind if you could tell me how to unlock this? It locked well. Okay. The laptop. Okay, so in the meantime, I have a question. Does anyone have any plans for winter break? Like, what are you all going to be doing? And it's okay if you say sleeping. Because sleeping is important.
Get my license,
Oh, get your license.
or start to.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, yeah.
Study.
Oh, okay, cool. When's your birthday? Happy early birthday. Okay. What else? Does anyone else have any plans besides sleeping, celebrating birthdays?
May I? I'm sorry, what did you say? You said studying?
That's exactly working, yes.
Actually, if that's the plan, I'm giving you extra points. Studying, you're studying too? Okay.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum, sister. How are you? So the next thing that I want to go over is self-reflection. And that is something that I think is so important. So oftentimes in life, like when things get really busy, you're like, okay, I need to go to school, you know, eat, study, do homework, maybe study again, do things at home, wake up, repeats, and after you're kind of like in this cycle, Monday through Friday, where you're doing the things you have to do, commuting to school, commuting back, doing your classes, classwork, homework, whatever have you. And it's so easy to get into that cycle of just like doing things almost like a robot. And oftentimes, life will get like that. Life will get busy where you will have things continuously that you have to do. But one thing that I think really allows you to take a step back is if you reflect. If you do something called self-reflection. Now, this doesn't have to be some form of like activity that takes hours to do, right? There were some points that I brought up, and I think it would be
great to kind of talk about, right? So when I usually self-reflect, I tend to ask myself, number one, am I doing something that I'm passionate about? Am I doing something that makes me happy? So on a weekly basis, I would ask myself, did what I did for the week, was it something that was exciting for me? Did it push me in the direction of my goal, right? Did I prioritize the right things? And I feel like at the end, the best thing that you can do to really see if you're doing the things that you want to do is ask yourself the question of, number one, did I treat people correctly, right? Did I treat people in the right way? Did I go about treating people the way I want to be treated? Which is something very, very simple, right? At the end of the day, you don't want someone to disrespect you or treat you in a very, very rude way, so, like, don't disrespect others, right? The next thing I would ask myself is, am I doing things that will allow me to grow and become a better person in the process, right? And the third thing I'll ask myself is what I'm doing, is it going towards my long-term goal? Whether that could be, working at a certain place, having a certain career, doing something that really, really excites me, right? So every time you self-reflect and ask yourself, okay, have I done all the goals that I wanted to, that I told myself I would do? That really allows you to think and say to yourself, okay, what can I do to make things better? So like, for example, with me, one thing that I got into, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, actually 4 years ago, was I got into journaling. And that is just simply writing down writing down what's on my mind, writing down the things that I have to do, the tasks that I have to do. So having just different small notebooks for different things. And I'll give you a classic example. So maybe a classic example within a day would be, okay, I want to make sure that I pray. I want to make sure that at work that I'm not distracted, so I'll have my phone off during work and I'll only have it on during lunch breaks just because I want to get all of my work done. Because I wouldn't want to work over, 8 to 10 hours in a day if I don't have to. I would say to myself, like, okay, I'm going to do, a certain amount of push-ups, or I'm going to work out, whatever the case is. And I would then ask myself, okay, did I accomplish these certain goals for the day? And it could be anything. It could be studying for an exam. It could be reading a book. It could be, highlighting things in a textbook. And after, what I would do is I would just check them off. And that really, really helped me in the long term because it allowed me to keep track of my progress. And I would look at that book at the end of the day and ask myself, okay, and self-reflect and say, okay, Christopher, did you do everything that you wanted to do? And that was very, very helpful for me because ever since young, I struggled with concentration. Has any one of you ever had that moment when you came back home and you told yourself you would study for an exam and you ended up eating, then you ended up watching YouTube, then you ended up seeing a new recommendation, and after that, next thing you know, 3 to 4 hours passed by and you didn't do a single thing? Raise your hand, raise your hands. it's so easy in our world, like in our generation, to get instant gratification with this, right? With your cell phones. You know, you have TikTok, you have Instagram, you have YouTube, etc. And oftentimes, a lot of people, it's not that a lot of people aren't smart. No, it's that a lot of people don't know how to do two simple things. Number one is concentrate, and number two is prioritize, right? And these are the two things that you could learn right now if you master and practice them every single day. You would be way ahead of people that are 20, 30 years older than you in life, right? Because at the end of the day, you being able to concentrate for a certain amount of time will allow you to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish. That could be you acting, getting into music, becoming a lawyer, becoming a banker, whatever the case is. That art of prioritizing things, focusing on things, and also self-reflecting to see where you are and asking yourself, okay, are you in the direction of where you want to go to, can really help tremendously. Okay, now this is an important point, and it alludes to what I said earlier, and I'm going to read it. It basically says, what you studied for 2 to 4 years in college does not determine what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And I feel like a lot of people know that, like verbatim, when they're reading it on a piece of paper or PowerPoint in this case, but they may not actually internalize it and realize that. And at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are doing something that you're passionate about, that you love, but also be open to knowing that things may not work exactly as you planned it to be, right? Things may work out in ways that are even better than expected, especially if you're waiting for a long time for it. Because at the end of the day, the more you wait for something and the more you practice what you want to do in the future, the better you become at it. The more resilient you become as a person. So when that time comes, because everyone has like a certain time, you know, when they're like at their prime, so to speak. For some people, it's like at the age of 20, you know, you see 20-year-old millionaires, very, very successful people. For others, it might be when they're 40, 50, 60, right? But just knowing deep down inside that whatever you want to do, you're able to do it. It may not come exactly at the time you want it to come at, but it will come at the right time. I would say another example that comes to mind was I graduated from college in December of 2019, but I didn't start working full-time until January of 2021. So I did not work for 13 months due to a pandemic, due to what happened in our world. And as a result, I started to feel very, very sad. I felt frustrated. I felt bitter inside. I was like, why does this have to happen to me for? Like, why do I need to not work for 13 months while other people are progressing in their career, like other people are doing amazing things, right? And after talking with my family about it, after really thinking to myself about it, I realized something. Everything happens at the time that it's supposed to happen, right? If you were to really think about where you are right now, we've all survived
so many challenges and setbacks, and we've also received a lot of amazing opportunities along the way. Don't you think that there's going to be something positive that comes out of life? It may not be at the time that you expect it to come, but it will come, right? It will manifest it. It will be there at the right time, right? You just have to be, and this is really 4 things that I love to live by. You just need to be patient, positive, passionate about what you do, and persistent. You need to keep on trying, because at the end of the day, like, life will throw you tests and challenges, and things won't be easy at times. Really quickly before I move on, does anyone have any, I guess, questions on that, or is there anything that anyone wants to mention? Yes, what's your name?
How did you feel when you finally got accepted to the college?
How did I feel when I got accepted?
First thoughts, what your decided?
Yeah, I was shocked in a very, very, very pleasant way. I remember I was chilling with my brother. I didn't see him in a while because he's 10 years older than me, and I love to hang out with him. And I remember we were both like watching very, very funny like YouTube videos just because we love to laugh. And I remember I got an email notification, and I'm like, who in the world is sending me an email to my school account when I finished high school? And when I saw it, it was an email from Baruch Admissions. It was one of the best feelings in the world because in April, just 2 months prior, I got a rejection letter. And I remember just being so sad and so frustrated, and I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I didn't make it. Like, I didn't make it. And I think I had tears in my eyes. I was upset. And to then just get that email saying, hey, Christopher, we saw your continuous interest in Baruch College. We have an open opportunity for you. Feel free to apply through an essay. It was definitely a surreal feeling. It really, really was. And what it did was it showed me that getting a no doesn't mean that I'm rejected forever, right? It could be a redirection. Like, for example, one of my best friends, he ended up going to Forest Hills High School. He wasn't that concentrated on school. He told me that very, very transparently. He said, like, I got good grades in school, but I didn't study for any exams. That was him saying that. And he didn't, like, do his SATs. He didn't take his SATs or ACTs, and as a result, he went to community college. He went to LaGuardia Community College. And for the first 2 years, he realized, he's like, wow, I want to do something more than, something more in my life. Like, I don't want to go to, I don't want to go to a community college, finish off, and not know what I want to do. And I think his major was like philosophy, because he absolutely loves the meaning of life. So he's like, but he told himself, he's like, what am I going to do with the meaning of life? How is this going to make money for me and my family, right? And this is the thing, not to knock philosophy. Philosophy can make you money if you work very, very hard and you're persistent. It may happen when you're 60, but, but he was like, okay, I want to do something more. I want to apply to a 4-year college. I want to study business. And he applied to Baruch College. And I met him, right? He was, I guess, he was the impression of what one would call like
college, like, I wouldn't say like a college jock, but, like very, very, very like, like very, very like long hair, didn't really care about school, nonchalant, like would drive incredibly fast, didn't have a license, etc. Like very, very reckless. Bad boy, quote unquote, yeah. So, yes, correct. So, but he decided, he's like, I want to do something better. His mom was a single parent, just like my mom is. And he was like, I want to study finance. I want to work for one of the top investment banks in the world, and I won't stop until I get there. That was his passion and his resilience. And he was working so hard before, like working in the kitchen, like doing dishwashing, cooking, etc., like working odd jobs just to help his family. And like, I remember seeing him work so hard, but the thing is like when like a regular person who like didn't know him would talk to him, they would be like, oh yeah, this guy is like nonchalant, like he doesn't care about anything at all. But he graduated with like a 3.95 plus GPA and, works at Morgan Stanley right now, which is a top investment bank. And it just goes to show that someone who at one point did not care about school and really furthering themselves for the longest time, they realized that, okay, like, I need to get serious about this. I really want to do something big with my life. I want to grow, I want to learn, I want to become better, right? And really the whole purpose in life, if you were to really think about life, from when you were born to when you pass away, we're all going to pass away, I'm sorry, spoiler. So, the whole point of life is to grow, right? You could grow in regards to how much you love God. You're growing, right, every single day, like we're becoming older and older every single day, even though like we don't see ourselves having like insane wrinkles like tomorrow or something like that, but we're growing. And the thing with life is this, you need to ask yourselves, okay, what am I actually doing to, push myself to the next level? How am I growing? What am I doing to really elevate? Because at the end of the day, life is precious. And you're the main character, right? You're the main character of your own life. How could you let anyone say, okay, this is what you have to do for your life, right? You can respect your family, you can respect your peers, you can respect people around you. You could motivate and encourage and support the people around you. But at the end of the day, you're the one who's dealing with you, right? And you need to ask yourself, like, okay, there's a certain time and place for everything. How can I grow and become better? So, yeah, very, very, very long-winded answer to your simple question about the work. So, any other questions? All right, I'll go back. Oh, and sister. Oh, wanted to quickly ask. I know it's 3:10, so. Wanted to ask how many minutes I have left. 0 minutes left. Okay, I think I heard that. Gotcha. Okay. All right, I see Brother Caribbean. So what's going on?
No, that's fine. I mean, some of them they need to take the bus.
Yeah, of course. I guess what I'll do is this. If you all want to connect with me with people who want to take the bus, or who need to take the bus, feel free to take a picture of this, even though the screen is really not like. Yeah, it's super.